Buonasera, sono Debbie Levitt, sono americana però abito in Italia. Sì, sto imparando l'italiano, tutti mi dicono piano piano. Ho appena fatto l'esame di livello A2, quindi posso parlare dei temi dell'esame. Ho dimenticato le mie chiavi. C'è uno sciopero e mi piacerebbe fare una passeggiata. E per questa ragione, oh no, please. Per questa ragione, this talk is in English. So, but I do live in Italy. I am learning Italian, but and I did take the A2 test, but I'm not here to spring that on you. So I am here to tell you about some other fun things about how UX and software engineering can get along better and how that'll make everything happier for DevOps and engineers. One quick thing on the back of your badges, I know it says you should not leave a talk in the middle. Well, you know, Americans are pretty bold people, and I say if you need to leave the talk or you want to leave the talk or I'm not giving you enough fun or you're falling asleep, you are welcome to leave. It wouldn't insult me at all. So please do what's right for you, and I'll just keep talking. So this is DevOps ICU, improving DevOps by results by correctly integrating UX. ICU in America is the part of the hospital that gives the most critical care and treatment. So I like to say your DevOps might be needing care and treatment, and I will be your doctor for the next 40 minutes. Set the timer. So I'm Debbie Levitt. I'm a UX specialist. I'm not a DevOps or programmer person, though I've learned to say things like, I'd like a cloud in a container with a cloud on it near a container, just from speaking at a lot of DevOps events. So once in a while I say, do we need microservices there? And someone goes, yeah. And I go, oh, yeah, I know. But I'm just picking up some things as I go, though my Italian's better than my DevOps. So, but piano. So I've been a UX strategist, designer, consultant, speaker, and trainer since the mid-90s. Who remembers the mid-90s? A few of us. Okay, thank you for those who wanted to admit it. And P-Type is my UX agency. We're a full-service UX agency, now gleefully located in Sardinia, so we are your neighbor, P-Type SRL. And so we do lots of UX projects for companies around the world, and of course we also help companies who are struggling to get UX into their organizations or improve what UX is doing. We come in and we consult on that as well. And clients call me Mary Poppins. You guys know Mary Poppins? I fly in, fix everything, sing a few songs, fly away. So I don't think they're going to let me sing here, but if we have time at the end, I don't know. So DevOps ICU is my program. I actually wrote 2 days of material. Luckily, I'm only going to keep you here 40 minutes, but if you like it, there's a much longer version. And if you have any questions, I might be talking for the whole 40 minutes, and there might not be time for questions, so you're welcome to use the menti.com system. We're going to take some fun polls later, so have your phones handy. menti.com, put in code 88752, leave me a question, and make sure you type in your email address, otherwise I can't answer you. Also, you're welcome to take pictures, tweet at me, use the hashtag, and for good UX, you ever notice people have animating slides and you have no idea when they're done animating, so you don't know when to take a picture? Well, I've invented this handy thing here. When this little camera guy comes up on the bottom, my slides are done animating. It's a great time for a picture. You are welcome. So some people have asked me if my session is just some sort of sales pitch for UX, and I say, well, that's weird. You came here on your own. I didn't make you come here. You probably are struggling with UX at your job. You might have some horror stories, or maybe your company's not really working with UX yet, and there's a lot of frustration and confusion. So hopefully my talk will give you some concrete tips that you can try when you get back to work on Monday. So at many companies, engineering is fed by other teams. Of course, blueprints, maybe wireframes and prototypes, and how this thing is going to work comes from other people. Normally, in many companies, developers aren't doing the design, and many companies that are doing it that way are moving away from that. And these are usually non-engineering individuals and teams who are doing that design, and there should be collaboration going in both directions from the very beginning, because engineering shouldn't operate in a vacuum. But I'm finding too many companies are excluding or circumventing UX because they really don't understand what it does. Any training that they got, especially Agile training and books, usually doesn't say anything about who UX or product designers are and how they work into those methodologies. And then there's a lot of people who think UX just draws boxes on a page and anybody can do that, or they are time and budget wasters. And I'm here to tell you, we're not. So expert UX architects are people who are doing research, design, testing, and iteration on everything between someone saying, I have an idea, and someone saying, let's get it to programmers to be built. Because DevOps is about so much more than how developers connect with IT, how infrastructure is managed, and how frameworks can be improved. It's really about seeing how many teams and roles are part of the software development process and making sure they all have seats at the table. Because I find developers and engineering want to be involved when UX and product designers and creative people are doing their work, but that doesn't fit into the current definition of DevOps. And of course, UX and creative people want to be involved when developers are coding and QA is testing, but so many methodologies exclude us. So these are silos we have to break down. Because all your customer sees or understands is your user experience, and you guys are customers too. You've selected maybe this company, maybe its competitor, but you had reasons to make those choices. And why did you make those choices? And did this company try to design with you in mind? Did it do research and testing before this product was unleashed on the public? Because when you try a product and you don't like it, you're probably not thinking, hey, I wonder how many sprints they spent on that. You're not. You're probably thinking, who built this piece of junk? And of course, you're right to think that. Who built this? Who designed it? Was any research done? Was it tested on someone like you before developers built it and it was unleashed on the public? UX is driven by a lot of the same goals and results that DevOps wants. We are problem finders, problem solvers, customer advocates, and we aim for product quality and building what has real value to the customer. And of course, we care about teams working efficiently and getting things that are easy to learn and easy to use out on the market as fast as possible. And that way, for that reason, enhancing this relationship should save time, money, and lots of sanity. And today we'll be looking at how UX can integrate and help these areas. So where does UX fit in? Hands up, who is at a company where right now they don't really have UX people and things might go just straight to developers? Is anybody in that situation, sort of? I'm getting a few faces but no hands. I see through you. Okay, so some people who don't want to admit it, and that's fine. Your process probably looks like this. Someone who has the vision for the product. That might be the product manager, it could be an outside client, it could be the CEO of a small company. Someone says, hey, build this. And of course, then you have to build this, you test it, you get it on a server, and wouldn't you know, someone looks at it and says, now that I see it, I think I want something different. And oh yeah, people are nodding and giving me a painful smile because they know that means now we have to say, okay, now what the heck do you want? Fine, we'll build it, we'll test it, we'll get it on a server again, and this cycles around and around until someone decides, okay, let's get this out to the public and hope that it's not a disaster. That's probably what your world looks like now if you're not working with UX. Yes, good time for picture, please do. I see people holding up. Oh my God, yes, that's my life. Available as a tattoo. But if you have UX in your process, it should look more like this, where basically that client, that product manager, that CEO, the person with the vision tells it to the UX person or team. UX can then cycle through its processes, which I'll explain in a moment, and iterate on any designs or concepts. Then UX tests them on real or archetypal customers to make sure we're building the right thing for the right people. And then at that point, hopefully everybody likes it. Most importantly, the customers are likely to like it. And then UX can wrap it up and get it to the engineering so that you can build it once without lots of change requests. I know that's like a dream, but it's real. And that way, if someone changes their mind, they go back to UX. It's not put in as a change request to engineering. They come back to us, and then we can either talk them out of their bad idea, or we can do some research or testing, or build it, see what happens. But we always go through our process, which I'll explain shortly. And of course, it's okay for people to change their minds during the UX process because it's much easier to change a wireframe or a prototype than to have to get people to change their code. So this could be you. Imagine building it once. Can you smell that? That is the free conference sandwich smell of only having to build this once and not deal with people changing their mind. And this is the dream UX hopes to deliver to you. While learning Italian, my teacher asked me to watch a lot of La Pimpa. I noticed La Pimpa starts every conversation with, "Chi sei?" So I thought I'd throw that in. Anybody remember La Pimpa? Is it just? Okay, everybody of a certain age. Thank you. So that means I am UX Paparina. So what is UX? I find some of my engineering audiences aren't totally sure, so I have a few slides on what the heck is UX, and it is the more scientific, psychological, problem-solving side of product, service, and experience design. Our goals include happier, more loyal customers, ease of learning and use, shorter, more intuitive processes, and accessibility for people with mobility, hearing, vision, cognitive, and other issues. Quick word on accessibility. There was an American football game a few years ago where they decided to change the team uniforms for coolness. That's usually your first mistake, and put one team entirely in red and one team entirely in green. Now, I can ask how many of you are colorblind, but you might not want to admit if you are colorblind. But statistically speaking, one or two of you in the room now is colorblind. And yes, okay, one person's admitting it, and probably a couple more who don't want to. So that means for you, this slide looks pretty much the same as this. Did the two slides look pretty much the same? Yeah. Yeah. And that's fine. The thing is, we then have to design for that. We have to take everybody into consideration. So for people who thought that UX just draws boxes on a page, we can't, we don't, and we shouldn't. Because there are real people who are our friends, our parents, our coworkers, who have these issues, whether these issues are motion or other. And boy, Nike sure learned their lesson from that. They got ripped apart in America. So what are the UX people working on when they disappear and stop talking to you guys? I'd like to tell you a little bit about the user-centered design process. So just like engineering has some flavor of a build, test, learn, iterate process, so does UX. And so we want to start, of course, with requirements or auditing. Now that means UX should be collaborating with you guys early on. We should be talking about what the project is and what the features are likely to be. We need to learn what the technical limitations are. We need to learn if we have all of the services and APIs in place. Can you build them? And if not, UX needs to change its direction. So we should be collaborating with you early. Research is an important part of what UX does. It's not user-centered without users. Statistics and quantitative data are great, but UX really wants that qualitative data. We want to know the whys and not just the whats. When you walk out the door and they have you hit a smiley face, if all the smiley faces are sad, they have no idea what went wrong. We need to know more about the whys and not just the whats. Information architecture has to do with structures, taxonomies, and hierarchies. That's part of the UX world. So that might be the navigation of a website or an app. It could be how a database is constructed. Now, not from the architecture side that you would handle, but more from the idea of what is the information and metadata that will go in this so that our customers can easily find what they're looking for. Interaction design is what you guys think of when you think UX. It's those boxes on a page. It's the wireframes and prototypes, the blueprints of our designs. And they're typically going to show flows, processes, paths, layouts, errors, problems, possibilities, if they're done well. So that's interaction design. Now it goes to user testing. It better go to user testing. And of course, that happens during the UX process. Some people say, UX, you guys just A/B test things when we're done, right? And I go, oh no, that's too late. We want to know before you start building if this is a great solution with a good design for customers. So that we don't want you guys to build it until we're sure it's what will be built. So user testing will highlight flaws, which allows us to go back and iterate and improve on our design before you've built it. Aha, going back. So let's talk a little bit about lean, even if you're not doing lean. So this is where I do a live poll. If you guys want to get your phones out, there's two fun, I believe they're fun, you can disagree with me later, 2 fun live polls that we can do. If you go to menti.com, how come okay, here it comes, menti.com, and type in 88752, and we're going to talk a little bit about lean. UX often disagrees with product managers and engineering on how lean do we go? How lean do we strip down this thing to make that minimum viable product? Well, if we turn the minimum viable product into the minimum viable jogger, what do you guys think is the minimum viable jogging outfit? Maybe we can get a few votes here. 1 vote for the naked guy. 2. Okay. There's always a rebel who votes for the 3rd and thinks he's really cool. Come on, who's going to be that today? I see you out there. You? Okay. Oh, there you go. All right, two rebels. Then now there's 0 rebels. Okay, 10. That's great for how many people are in the room. So as you can see, most people think it's the first one. That's our minimum viable jogger or product. But UX, and of course, it seems like the minimum viable one because it's viable, and minus the hat, it's pretty minimal. But UX would say we should have enough features in this to create customer value and customer satisfaction. So UX would be voting more for the middle one. Because, sorry about the lightning, it's because I'm that good a speaker. Because you never get a second chance to make a first impression. What about the times that the customer tries an app or a website and they don't like it and then they uninstall it? You've all done that. You've tried something, you hated it, you uninstalled it. Did you give that company another chance, even when they released something new? People don't have time for that. They don't care. And of course, if they're turned off by your MVP or your beta, whatever you're calling it, they're probably not going to give you another chance, so you've lost them. Let's see, I can move to another slide and see if that's better. Okay, the lightning has stopped, kids. The storm has passed. So that's why for UX, the V in MVP stands for valuable. We want to make sure we're still building something that's been stripped down to nothing, but still has customer value. There's no reason anymore to release something without customer value because people will still rip you apart in their blogs and social media and be very happy to get negative attention. So don't do it. And take it from Eric, Mr. Lean, even if you're not doing lean, because this is great advice. He said, what if we found ourselves building something that nobody wanted? In that case, what did it matter if we did it on time and on budget? Go too lean and you might be building what nobody wants. This is where your UX specialist can work with product and engineering to find the balance and make sure the right things are prioritized. So how about UX and Agile? Always the elephant in the room. So buckle your seatbelts, please. And in case of a crash, the exits may be behind you, but in this case, they're in front of you. So I'm going to use Safe Agile in some of my examples because it's an easy target, and they make nice, simple infographics like this that I can pick on. And so know that what I'm going to say is really true for any flavor of Agile, but I'm going to pick on Safe in a few cases since I find them to be an easy target. Some years ago, I went for 4 days of Safe training, and yes, I've since recovered. But I kept asking them, where does UX fit into your model? And they said, we don't know. We haven't figured it out. If you figure it out, tell us. Well, I tried to tell them, and they're not returning my emails. But now, UX gets a little recycle your garbage icon in the bottom left in this bar of things that we didn't know what to do with. This bar of shared services, milestones, vision, and somehow UX. But this doesn't tell you or me or anybody who is UX, what do they do, how do they fit into Agile, are they on teams, do they do sprints? And when I show this to people, they usually say, well, safe is a joke. And I say, well, maybe or maybe not. But we still need to fill the hole where a lot of Agile training and books and other things haven't explained where UX fits in. So where does UX fit into Agile? First, nobody puts UX in a corner. Okay, I'm so glad to be back in a country that gets that. Hi, thank you. I was just in India and nobody smiled. Okay, thank you. Thank you for having seen Dirty Dancing. Yes, hands up, Dirty Dancing. This happened in Italy. Okay, and was it, did you see it in English or Italian? In what? In Italian. So what do they say? Nobody puts baby in the corner? It works. Okay, just checking, because I don't know what they translated it to. It could be, nobody has turnips on a Friday. I don't know. So, okay, that worked. Great. So nobody puts UX in the corner, darn it. Here's where UX really lives. We're in portfolio land because we should be involved in the features and roadmap and prioritizing these things. We live in continuous exploration, that process of continuously exploring the market, making sure that vision, features, and roadmap meet or exceed customers' needs. We are all about customer solutions. It's what UX lives for. We are hoping to make DevOps better. Of course, we want teams to work efficiently, and really we want there to be fewer fixes, but we're thinking more on the human experience level rather than on the technical bug level. But I believe that if you can have better UX design earlier, you can have fewer fixes later, and you probably all want fewer fixes later. And one UX designer should be on the Agile team, and this person can represent all the creative people. So the visual designer, the copywriter, you don't have to put everybody on the team. What I have found to work best at the places where I've worked, or what I've seen to be the most disastrous, and I'm working against it, is get one UX person embedded on the team, and they would represent all the creative people. So ultimately, we are all over this thing. And so people who typically aren't sure how UX fits into Agile are just typically not totally sure what UX does or why or how. But hopefully you're starting to get that, which will make you the genius hero at your company. Now, this is something that I have found to work well. Some people disagree with this, so like everything, this has to be adjusted for how your company works. But I found the best way to work UX into sprints is that we need to be 2 or more sprints ahead of you, probably even more, because we have our process of research, designing, testing, and iterating, which can sometimes take longer than we expect. So I also separate the UX work from the visual design work, and I'll talk a little more about that later. But it's easy for me to separate those because I'm a terrible artist. So there are lots of UX people who imagine they're great UX people and great artists, the kind of the full stack thing. Many of those people are not as great as they think. Sorry to them. But as a UX specialist, when I look at UX work, I expect it to be amazing. And so a graphic designer saying I make wireframes usually doesn't work for me. So what I typically find works well is for UX to go through their processes, test things, because even if someone does the visual design on it earlier, if it doesn't test well, the visual design can't save it, and we probably wasted that person's time. Now, I do recommend that engineering work with themselves and product to get lots of tech debt and other stuff into the backlog. Because just like you guys can sometimes have a sprint go a bit wrong, where estimates were off, someone was sick. I mean, there's so many things that can happen where a sprint just goes wrong. And that can happen for UX too. We may have estimated our time and then testing showed more problems than we expected. We need to fix them. So I hate when engineers just do this and say, we're waiting for you, and we're going to tell your manager we're waiting for you. That shouldn't happen. That doesn't sound very agile. So make sure you've got some stuff you can work on if I need some extra time. That would be the friendly thing to do. And there are Agile manifesto principles that support UX. So if you need some help understanding this more deeply, of course, principle 1 is our highest priority is to satisfy the customer, and that's directly linked to how beautiful, wonderful, and life-changing we've made our product. Principle 5, give motivated individuals the environment and support they need and trust them to get the job done. That means we need to hire real UX specialists and experts and let them do their job. Continuous attention to technical excellence and good design enhances agility. Why just have good design? Let's have great design. Thank you. Thank you for calling. Simplicity, the art of maximizing the amount of work not done, is essential. This, of course, is my favorite because I love to come in early and kill features or parts of a product or project that don't have real customer value. And sometimes that runs up against engineering or product. Engineering says, why are you trying to kill our stuff? But in reality, if you are as big a fan as I am of Principle 10, you will support UX when they want to kill something that they can say has no customer value. So at this point, people usually ask, well, then how do you reconcile safe, agile, and UX? And the answer is, if you're trying to do safe by the book, the way they've released version 4.5 and 4.6, you're not, because they voted all the UX people off the island. SAFE actually says you don't need UX specialists, and they empower the Agile team to do their own lean UX. But you should get the opinions of shared services and product and like everybody at the company except UX. So unfortunately, I would say SAFE is kind of running against the principles and making a bad name for themselves. So I find that most companies are just either ignoring SAFE or they're ignoring this part of it. So things can go wrong. In 2018, just last year, a famous tech company who I won't name, and of course you don't recognize what this is at all, a famous tech company had to announce that its 2017 redesign was a complete failure, and they were going to have to redesign their redesign. And they didn't seem to see coming that customers were going to find this new product to be cluttered, difficult to use, difficult to navigate, and basically a giant failure. Now, I don't work there. My guess is that they skimped on a lot of areas of UX because your UX practitioner would have known at many places of this project that this was not going to fly. If we had done research, we would have known that. Good, I'm glad you can't guess. I don't want to get in trouble today. I strategically placed clouds. You'll never know who it is. We would have known during research that people didn't want this. We would have known if we had prototyped this and tested it that it's not what people wanted. So then you have to think about how much did this company spend on all of the time to design and lay this out and have their programmers build and test it for multiple desktop and mobile platforms. $10 million? Someone internal to this project recently told me they believe it was more than tens of millions of dollars. That's all I can tell you. Can't tell you more. Then I have to kill you. No, we don't want to kill you. So think about how much they could have saved, especially the public backlash. Because we can know upfront. There's no longer a reason to just build it, just ship it, and find out later it's a disaster. Companies can save heaps of time, money, customer agony, and internal fighting if they use UX the way we're intended to be used so that we can find this out early because, again, we would have known in a zillion places that project was going to fail. So again, UX teams should be working with product and engineering really closely from the beginning so that we can block or improve ideas that are likely to really stink. Time for another, there's going to be another poll coming up, but not quite yet. Some people ask me, is UX waterfall? Are you guys just big design up front? Well, let's take a look. Imagine you've got something that's maybe a 5-step process in your site or in your app. Customer signs up, they choose something, they want to pay for it, they get a confirmation. Now, as developers, you can cut that into 5 chunks or maybe even more smaller chunks because someone has given you the blueprints to what the entire picture is. But it's different for UX because when we get the project, we get customer feedback, we get product vision, we get innovation ideas, we get all of these kind of mysterious pieces. We have to write the story. And so that means for us, the smallest unit is the full customer workflow or process. If we were to design step 1 and give it to you guys, design step 2, give it to you guys and gals, then the problem is we've never checked the full workflow, and that could still test poorly. So it's important for UX to be able to design and test anything that is a full process. So let's see. Did anyone see this viral video? I only have a still of it. couple of guys, yes, a couple of smiles, saw this. So this was where there is a power outlet, and someone is plugging it in. That's an American power outlet. And then there is an automatic soap dispenser that when it sees a hand come under it, it sprays you and your power plug with lots of nice wet soap just before you connect to live electricity. And I saw this tagged as when you do unit testing without integration testing. But I like to think of it as this is the reason why UX designs and tests complete workflows rather than separate pieces in isolation. There's so much that we do that's similar to what engineering does. And people ask me, why doesn't UX get fast feedback and iterate? You guys seem so slow. And I say, oh, holy cats, we want to get fast feedback from customers through testing, and we want to iterate. But we find that a lot of companies don't give us the time or budget. And that can certainly happen when UX is not involved early on to request the budget and to estimate our time. So if we get left out of that, we get surprised later that there's no time and budget. Plenty of horror stories about that. Okay, this is my poll. So one more poll for everybody. When the poll comes up, it's going to ask you to vote from a scale of it's got a bunch of different things that could go on at a company, and which of these affect the user experience? Which of these are so bad that they might make our customer leave us? And which of these are not so bad the customer might not really care? So take a vote, vote for each of these. Which of these really affect the customer, and which of these probably don't? We've got about 10 or 11 more minutes, so I promise I won't make the poll run that long, but let's get a few people on this. Most of you are still awake, so come on. Guy in the front stayed awake and everything. All right. 2, 3, 4. Excellent. 10. Great. Excellent. Thank you so much. So you can see from your own voting that there are elements that deeply affect the customer's experience. This is that UX. This is what we do. And so you can see that there are things that will affect them, that might make them run away. And you can see that there are things that happen internal at our companies that might trickle down to affect our user. If a team is inefficient, maybe the customer has to wait longer for a release. But it might not drive that customer away as much as other things that we would tend to call bad UX. So we need to work smarter and get more qualified UX experts into every aspect of planning and design and execution so that we can be better collaborators. And we can measure this. A lot of people I find in engineering and DevOps want to measure these things. They can be measured. In addition to measuring traditional things about customer satisfaction, like app ratings, app reviews, customer feedback from our website, call center, tickets, and things like that, we can also measure things against some of the DevOps goals and results that we're looking for. These are measurable. For example, how long do stories, projects, or epics take to build, test, and go to market? So hopefully, if you're working with UX better, you will probably find your developers are even estimating better, because now they have a full set of tested blueprints to use for estimation versus, hey, this is what somebody told me to build. I'm just going to guess how long it might take. And of course, if UX is providing blueprints and those are being followed, then hopefully engineering has fewer surprise changes. Getting releases out to the public more quickly or often sounds great, but let's make sure this has customer value. Nobody wants to continuously deploy junk. And of course, internal communication and culture are measurable. You might have to make a survey out of that, but managers need to talk with workers about that. And of course, I want to encourage everybody to take their software development measurements beyond the typical, how productive were we, how efficient were we, what was our velocity. There's a lot more at stake here. We need to also be measuring customer satisfaction and things relating to the product quality and the customer. That's not what my clock says, man, with the time count. So I still have a few more slides. So let's say your specialized database programmer is a bottleneck right now. Too many tickets are looking for this person's specialty, so what do? You could do a skills matrix to try to balance things better. You might have to add someone to the team. You might have to do more exploratory testing to get feedback earlier. There's some definite obvious things you can try, but one thing I never hear is that specialized person should teach their specialty to other people on the team. Yet, I've read books about Scrum that say your UX practitioner is probably going to be a bottleneck. Have her teach everybody how to do her job. Hey, that doesn't work, because here's what it sounds like. I was alive in the 70s, and I was sent in 1979 to learn how to do basic programming. Does that make me a great coder? Does that mean if there's a bottleneck on the team, you should teach me some Ruby or some Java so I can code to production? It doesn't make sense for me to try to you like that idea. Okay, I'm working for you now. So I have a degree in music. How many people want to teach me to code to production because we're a little backed up right now? Doesn't make sense for you guys. Doesn't make sense for UX. It's really important to make sure we're playing to people's strengths and specialties and understanding that UX is a unique specialty, just like your backend database programmer. Wrong way. And very quickly, people are often confused about the differences between UX and UI. Many people think these are the same, so you're not alone. And the way that I like to explain how they're different is I Googled what you have to do, at least in America, to get a university degree in each of them. What do you study? And you can see that UX's studies are a lot more about psychology and, about data and research and studies. And then the UI degree, or visual design, is more about the aesthetics of those. Color, typography, spacing, branding. UX typically doesn't learn that, and the artists typically don't learn the psychology and other stuff that UX does. So think of UX as your building architects, and think of UI as your interior designers. Both important jobs, very different, usually not the same person doing both. Because UX is a little bit more of a, we say form versus function. Did that phrase make it over here, form versus function? I don't know. So UX is the function, UI a little bit more form. And so back to better ways to collaborate. Assign tickets in Jira or whatever you're using to UX when you find ambiguities, problems, or questions. Make sure you're bringing UX into your system. Don't make a Trello board for them or some separate thing like they're the bad dog. And don't just ask them in Slack. Let's make sure this is all documented. So bring them in, assign the tickets to them. I love when tickets get assigned to me. I drop things immediately because I want you to get your answer within 2 minutes. Not all of your UX people are going to be that great, but tell them Debbie said you have to drop everything because now Debbie's the bottleneck, so we need to answer you quickly. Invite UX to all of your meetings, stand-ups, retros, showcases, anywhere where UX or the interface or the project might be discussed. And if something comes up, make sure you let UX make the decision on it. Don't make a decision on it if they miss the meeting. That's not an excuse to make a decision in someone else's specialty. Just press pause and find that person and let them make the call. And I got to show you this one. We've got a few more slides, but I got to show you this one. This is a declassified document from the U.S. Department of Defense. That is the American military. I understand that right now we don't want to rely on the American military for much right now, but they put out a document on how to recognize BS in Agile. Who knows the English word BS? Okay, Pier Mario, can you give me an Italian word for BS? Okay. Bullshit. BS is a nice way that we say that, to keep it clean. So thank you to my Italian coworker for that moment. So basically, they realized a lot of contractors wanted government gigs and claimed to be Agile, but really weren't. So they put out a document on how to recognize BS in Agile. And I want to read you a couple of my favorite things on here. I know it's a little hard to see, but are teams delivering working software to at least some subset of real users every iteration, including the first, and gathering feedback? And of course, that's feedback from users, not from the CEO's husband or wife. Is feedback from users turned into concrete work items for sprint teams on timelines shorter than 1 month? And my favorite, are teams empowered to change the requirements based on user feedback? Well, of course, this is my favorite. I want us to be able to change the project, the features, the requirements if we test and research with users and find we're not going to be building the right thing. So beware of Agile BS. So, in closing, ever notice that only non-UX workers are trying to tell you about methodologies they've made up that exclude UX, that somehow engineering can do all these things themselves? Well, I would say whatever you did didn't qualify as UX to any UX expert. This is a meme for a movie I don't think was shown in Italy, so I apologize that this may super fall flat. But this is a movie called The Princess Bride, and it's worth looking up and watching for those of you, especially you speak English. Go watch it in English. So it's time to try UX again, but this time we've got to do it right. We want the bed to be empty because the patient recovered and is better than ever. If your DevOps needs critical care and treatment, UX can't fix everything, but you'd be surprised how much it can improve. So it's time to rewrite the book, refresh any training that you may have missed, talk to your managers and leadership about how working better with UX can improve product efficiency, culture, collaboration, songs, everything, karaoke, everything. And of course, UX specialists are helping to drive teams towards more key metrics based on the user experience and the customer feedback. You don't want that Agile BS. So the path to getting your DevOps out of the ICU and getting great results, great product, great customer satisfaction, and happier teams is that complete and correct integration of UX specialists and processes. We want to help you achieve your DevOps goals. And with that, I am done. It says 38 minutes. I don't know why you say 45. So thank you very much for staying awake and listening to English. I will accept questions in any of 2 languages, but I will answer in English. And I know there's another talk in here in 10 or 20 minutes. I'll be breaking down so that the next person can set up. But if you have any questions, please come up to me and ask them, or shoot me that email. There's my real email address. And hope to see you guys on the interwebs. You can add me on LinkedIn, but leave a message with it so I don't think you're a weird salesman. Thank you.